I am Cynthia Krus, a partner at Sutherland, here with my partner Neil Lang. And today we're going to talk about what every fund director should know about valuation. This is an extremely hot topic today. You can't very well pick up a newspaper without looking at something that talks about valuation. Boards need to understand what they need to do and how they need to do it. The reason that it's become such a hot topic is because the SEC has focused on it. They've formed a task force, and as a result of forming that task force, they've also brought a number of enforcement actions in connection with valuation.
The recent enforcement cases focus on the direct responsibility of directors. It minimizes the director's ability to delegate or rely on outside advisors, experts, auditors, lawyers, finance professionals, in favor of requiring an independent, informed analysis by directors. On the surface, this seems perfectly consistent with the director's obligation with respect to fair value in the 40 Act context. That is, the obligation to fair value in good faith. However rational that sounds in theory, it sets up a catch-22 for directors. If directors rely on outside help from consultants and the price goes the wrong way, you're in the soup. If, on the other hand, you dismiss advisors' pricing and advice and the price goes the wrong way, you're also in the soup. All of this is judged with the perfect vision of 20/20 hindsight. The only but not perfect defense is documentation. A documented analysis, or the lack thereof, is the critical difference in whether the SEC may decide to bring a case or not bring a case. The analysis must demonstrate the rationale for the price and have formed the basis for the defense of the action, that is, why the price was reasonable at the time it was done.
So the director's obligations are: what are the fair values? Why are they being determined? What information did you have? What was the methodology you used? And how was it reviewed? The takeaway here is that the board has to review the process. The process has to be consistent, and you have to, as Neil said, provide significant documentation. One note I would say in a case that was recently decided was that the policies that were in place, the company had only replicated the SEC guidance and did not provide policies that implemented a fair value approach that they were using. And we would suggest that's almost worse than not having policies and procedures. So what we want to talk about today is lessons learned. Understand the valuation information. What's being presented to you? Do you understand how the calculation was done? Is there a period over period comparison? When you look back, does it look like things were applied consistently?
You also have to understand the role of the various personnel involved in the valuation process. What's the role of the portfolio manager? What's the role of the valuation committee? What's the role of other interested persons? What's the role of other third-party valuation consultants? How do they interact in the process? And most critically, what is the role of the independent auditor? Remember, the auditor audits the financial statements. The auditor is not responsible for assigning fair values to individual securities.
The board needs to understand the actual procedures. What happened, why did it happen, and how did it happen? Whose role is it to produce the information? Whose role is it to make a determination? Are there any conflicts as a result of those two people's role? You have to follow your procedures, you have to update them, and you have to review them.
Importantly, directors have to ask questions and get answers. You have to follow up on requested information. Directors are not potted palms. They have to be an integral part of the process.
Stay engaged. This is not just an annual process, and not even a quarterly. It's ongoing. If you have questions, ask them. For example, put aside some time to talk about a methodology that is more difficult than another, but stay engaged.
And remember, since the conduct in any enforcement proceeding or process is going to be judged in the fullness of hindsight, the answers will be known. It is critical that you document the process that you went through and the rationale for the prices arrived at. So of all the important things you can do It's document, document, and then document some more. In closing, let me just remind you in the immortal words of Sergeant Esterhaus on Hill Street Brews, let's be careful out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.